Hey guys, how's it going? It's Baggins here, and today we're going to be going over the latest patch notes for Royale's upcoming update, Open Beta 23. Play that fancy intro. So yesterday guys, we got the patch notes finally. Feels like it's been such a long time, but the patch notes are up for Open Beta 23, the Royale update. Deviled Eggs is what they've entitled it. If you want to check out the patch notes for yourself, you want to read through it in your own leisure, I will put a link in the description down below. Speaking of links in the description, I'm also live on Twitch almost every day if you want to come ask me questions about the update or just stuff in general. Again, links in the description down below. But let's jump into these patch notes, shall we? Now I want to address the elephant in the room before we get any further in this video, and that is the Battle Pass, or more specifically, the lack of a Battle Pass. No point in these patch notes does it mention anything about a Battle Pass, and the developers have never really bothered to mention anything about a Battle Pass at any time between now and since the last update, and that is because there is not going to be a Battle Pass. How do I know this? Well, I'm kind of like the inside hobbit. You guys know that I make a lot of videos on Royale, and over time I have become, I've gotten myself in there. I do know some inside stuff. But for this particular patch, there is not going to be a Battle Pass. Will there be a Battle Pass going forward? Remains to be seen. But for this patch, no Battle Pass. Now, why is there not going to be a Battle Pass? Well, unfortunately, there's just not many people left working on Realm Royale. As it is right now, I think there is about 3 people working on Realm Royale. Alex, Jacob, and I want to say Ogre, who's doing all the QA testing for it. And they are a solid team. They are some of the best guys I've known, great developers, but unfortunately, with only 3 people, there's not really much work you can get done. Fully fleshing out a whole Battle Pass, getting all the skins in for it, getting it approved, just is not reasonable. But they have tried to sort of get all the elements that you would expect in a Battle Pass and bring them into this patch. So we're gonna get into that in a second, but I just wanted to let you guys know, no Battle Pass, but there is still a lot of cool stuff. So let's move on and let's keep going. So starting off with the general section of the patch notes, we're going to be talking about limited time events. So in the next patch, limited time events or limited time game modes are going to be one of the main features and one of the most exciting things to come to Realm Royale in quite some time. So the way they describe it is a rotating event that mixes and matches various rules to create entirely new ways to play Realm every week. Some events can focus the circle on specific parts of the map to create a more focused play experience or even move around the map in strange ways. Now this is pretty exciting. I'm kind of thinking this is going to be somewhat similar to what we've seen in Fortnite in the past. I remember watching the Fortnite World Cup tournament last year, whenever that was, and one of the most exciting and interesting things I noticed about Fortnite is when the circle gets really small, when it's just room for like 1 or 2 people, the circle actually starts moving along the map. Now will this be the same within Realm Royale? I don't know, but I kind of hope it is. They haven't actually told us specifically what the game modes are going to be, whether it's going to be this, how many there's going to be. All we know is they're going to be happening every week, and they are going to change the rules quite a bit. For instance, the next line of text below says, events have the ability to limit weapons or abilities to a specific type, giving players a more even playing field to encourage an unusual playstyle. So we've kind of done some of this stuff in the past. You've seen the videos where we do sniper rifle only lobbies, shotgun only lobbies, sword only lobbies, or we've gotten even more creative and we've tried to do like zombies where there's just one squad of 4 humans and everybody else is a zombie with the dagger that can't use any abilities. Potentially we're going to see some of this stuff made available within the game without needing, a streamer, a YouTuber to create the custom lobby and get everybody in there. Instead, you can all just queue up and do your own thing, as I say, without needing some sort of figurehead, without needing somebody to tie it all together. Just the game does it for you. So that's going to be pretty nice. Everybody gets a chance to try their hand at like sillier versions of Realm Royale, and the fact that it changes every week gives us a reason to come back and keep on checking what's new in the game. Next up is Forge upgrading. Now this is something we've been asking for such a long time, but there's now going to be a tab within the Forge, so you'll have class abilities, neutral abilities, and the upgrade tab. It says every player gets to upgrade 1 item per forge, so you'll only be able to upgrade 1 of your weapons, your support ability, your offensive ability, or your movement ability per forge. So you'll have to move around quite a few forges to make sure you get everything to legendary or epic, depending on what current rarity of stuff you have. It says common and rare items will be upgraded to epic, and epic goes to legendary. So gray and green go to purple, and purple to orange legendary. It also says that the shard cap has been increased from 200 to 300. Now, I would imagine this is to reflect the cost of the upgrade. It doesn't actually mention at any point in the patch notes what the upgrade is going to cost, but I would assume because the shard cap is being increased, this is to reflect the fact that the upgrade is going to cost something potentially quite a bit if, you know, we're looking at spending over 200 shards per forge transaction. Next up, we have 2 new abilities. Now I'm very excited for this. I thought we were just getting limited time game modes and that was it. So the fact that we get some changes to the forge and we get 2 new abilities as well, very excited Hobbit here. The 2 new abilities are going to be Fortification and Grounding Shock. Now I've taken a little bit of a while to mention this, but going back to what we said about the Battle Pass, and in that same sort of vein, we don't have a test server either. The patch will just be live when it's live, sometime in February, hopefully next week or the week after. But there's no test server, so there's no way to actually show you guys any of this footage of what these abilities look like, what the forges look like, what the new forge tab looks like. Unless I can sneak some from the developers, which I think is unlikely, we're just gonna have to use our imagination for this, but they describe Fortification as a magical shield that blocks incoming damage. The player can't fire or use other abilities while Fortification is active. Now it sounds like an interesting ability, but my first concern is it does sound pretty similar to Ice Block. It blocks incoming damage like Ice Block, but you can't fire or use other abilities while Fortification is active. Maybe you can drink potions, although I would assume since you're limited to not being able to do other stuff. However, it doesn't say that you can't move, so maybe it's like a moving Ice Block which you could drink potions in which case I think that would make it just a strictly better Ice Block. I assume both of these abilities are not class specific, they're probably going to be neutral abilities, and the other one reads itself as Grounding Shock, so knock enemies into the air, then pull them back down with the Ground Shock. So this sounds like a pretty cool tool for Warrior, leaping in next to somebody, hit them with an axe, Ground Shock, knock them up into the air, throw an axe, pull them back down. Whether you'll actually have time to do all of that, I don't know how long you're going to be in the air for before you get pulled back down. Either way, sounds pretty cool, sounds like a fun one to use in some solo versus squads, or you know, a big squad rumble inside of a building. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun with these abilities in the limited time game modes, but yeah, Fortification, Grounding Shock, that's our 2 new abilities that were coming. Again, like I say, expecting them to be neutral. After this, they mentioned that we're going to be able to receive crowns just by logging in every day rather than the last 2 days of the week, and also by completing our daily quests. So, you know, open 10 chests, loot 50, whatever it is. Those quests now will give you crowns instead of Battle Pass XP. Obviously, since there is no new Battle Pass, instead you get crowns from just doing your daily quests and logging in. So all the crowns that you would have gotten from buying a Battle Pass, you know, that value that you sort of get back. Instead, you don't need to buy anything, you just get crowns just by playing. So as time goes on, you'll have more and more crowns, and then you'll be able to use those to buy the new stuff that's coming onto the shop every single day going forward. Which, speaking of that, talking about the shop, new to the store is the Fallen Bundle. Now, I'll have a few images to show on the screen, probably nothing in-game, but the Fallen Bundle consists of the Fallen Assassin, which actually we do have a little bit of footage from Munch's stream. I'm gonna assume that Munch doesn't mind us showing you the Fallen Assassin. This accidentally appeared in the game quite a few months ago, actually, but this is kind of what the Fallen Assassin looks like. Along with that, we have the Corrupted Crimson Mount, which is like a robot dragon thing. So not a robot dinosaur, but a robot dragon. And then we have the Lil Devil chicken skin. So the whole sort of theme of this bundle seems to be like heaven to hell. Kind of looks like it could have belonged in the Season 4 Battle Pass, but instead it's its own separate bundle. So that's a little bit strange, but still, Season 4 Battle Pass was my favorite by far of all the Battle Passes and all of the cosmetic content in Realm Royale, so naturally, I am pretty excited for this. Also, this is going to be the first time Assassin has been included in a bundle ever, so yay, rejoice, Assassin mains, you're finally getting a bundle for the character. It's going to include, like I say, Corrupted Crimson Mount, the Lil Devil chicken skin, and the Fallen Assassin skin. Next up, we got a couple of map updates. So Outpost, the Outpost Forge, previously I think one of the more boring forges in the game, also one of the more difficult forges to defend because of all the high ground around it. This is getting an update. The way to describe it is this area of the map has been redesigned to provide more interesting fights for players. So what exactly does that mean? Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe it's getting something like the Guntown treatment. I know some of you are not a big fan of Guntown and Fungal Jungle because it's so confusing in there, and I kind of understand what you're saying, but at the same time, it does lend itself to more chaotic fights. Either way, I do think that Outpost and Goblin Gulch are some of the most boring forges in the game, so glad to see it getting somewhat of an update. The other map update is that the giant mushroom that makes Fungal Jungle Forge, you're no longer going to be able to stand on top of that. Now this was especially effective for mages running high flyer, as they could fly up on top of that, and if the final circle was over the fungal jungle forge, they could just cheese out a win, because you can't actually stand inside the circle when you're on the bottom of the mushroom, like in the forge area. Whereas the circle, you know, you can stand anywhere on top of the mushroom, so you could just win by being on top of that mushroom sometimes. So no longer going to be able to do that, which might ruin a fun for a few mages here and there, but ultimately for the new player who can't understand why they're losing when the circle's closing in, where the heck is the enemy player, they can no longer stand on top of that mushroom. Next up, moving into the balance section of the patch notes. Now there is a little bit here, so we're going to go through it kind of fast, but again, there will be a link to it in the description down below, and we'll also show it on the screen if you want to pause the video and just take it all in. So first up is the Heirloom Rifle, which is getting a buff and a nerf in terms of its damage is going to be increased, so both at Epic and Legendary it will deal more damage per shot. However, the time between shots will be longer, and the overall clip size is going from 10 down to 8. So the weapon is going to pack more of a punch, but it's going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to have a few less shots in it, making it somewhat more of a slug rifle, but not quite. It still will fire faster than the slug rifle, I think. Ultimately, I feel like this is almost a buff. I mean, 10 shots down to 8 isn't much, but the damage increase is a little bit more significant, so we'll have to see how this plays out. Ultimately, it's going to be hard to tell like what exactly the balance looks like without actually playing the game, since we can't play the PTS. We just have to wait until it goes live. They also have changed the sniper rifle, so assassin getting hit twice, kind of. The sniper rifle bullet size, so the projectile size, has been reduced, so the size of the bullet is a little bit skinnier now. What this means is you'll be hitting people less often around the corners. It is pretty frequent that with the sniper rifle, if you can just see a pixel of the character, you can hit it fully. Sometimes you can't even see the character at all and you hit them. So yeah, that should be happening less often now that the projectile size of the sniper rifle has been reduced. Longbow getting a buff at Epic and a nerf at Legendary. It's kind of to bring the two weapons a little bit closer. The Epic weapon does feel like it's pretty far away from the Legendary, so being able to do a little bit more damage with the Epic and a little bit less with the Legendary, I think this is a fair change. Crossbow just getting a straight up nerf, and a pretty significant one at that as well. Epic damage going from 360 per shot to 300 per shot, and the Legendary crossbow going from 390 to 340. Now I think the Legendary crossbow is still going to be fine because it has that fire on top of it, and you also have pincushion, which you'll probably be running with the crossbow to deal 25% more damage. However, 300 on the Epic is going to make that weapon pretty underwhelming and probably just not worth using specifically if you're not playing Hunter. Probably still worth playing with Hunter, especially since you can guarantee get it to Legendary. And I guess on that note that you could play crossbow with other classes because you could upgrade it to Legendary, but at the same time, if you have an Epic crossbow, probably just not worth picking up unless you are specifically a Hunter. However, to combat this nerf to the crossbow, Hunter is getting a pretty significant buff with the Arbalest, which is, a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between the two Baggins? They both look the same. The crossbow is the faster firing pew 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 weapon, whereas the Arbalest is more of a slug rifle in that it has 6 shots, now going up to 8, and it deals more damage per shot with no damage fall off. So regardless of how far away the enemy is, it still deals the same amount of damage, but it has lightning on it instead of fire. So the Legendary Arbalest, just specifically the Legendary, not the Epic, is going from 650 damage per shot to 800 damage per shot. Now you combine this with the Headhunter talent, which increases the Arbalest headshot damage by 50% on top of the already 50% flat modifier for headshot damage. You're going to be hitting people pretty freaking hard with the Arbalest. I think combined with some other changes that we're going to see further on down below, Arbalest Hunter is going to be looking pretty strong in the next patch. Onto the Mage, we have some changes to the Stone Staff, so at both Epic and Legendary, it is getting a damage buff. Is this enough to make the Stone Staff worth it? It did get a pretty heavy nerf in the past in terms of lowering the fire rate, increasing the bloom, increasing the damage fall off, so is it just dealing more damage going to be enough? We'll have to wait and see. My guess is probably not. I think the Bolt Staff is still going to be the mage weapon to go for, even though it kind of got nerfed. And we'll talk about that right now, actually, since we're talking about mage. So the Bolt Staff, Epic and Legendary damage got increased per shot, but before you guys are like, what the heck? They did reduce the ammo from 25 down to 15, so you only have 15 shots in the Bolt Staff now. Bolt Staff, in my opinion, is one of the more difficult weapons to land shots within the game, but that was sort of compensated by the fact that it had so much ammo. Now it's reducing down in ammo by 10, so only 15 shots. Honestly, I think that probably would have been enough, but just to make sure they didn't nerf it too much, they seem to have increased the damage and also reduced the reload speed as well. So I still expect Bolt Staff to be pretty good in the next patch, if not as good as it was in the last patch, but we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. We also have some changes to the Warrior in terms of the throwing axe. Its damage is going up at every rarity it's available at. Epic and Legendary from 725 to 800 and Legendary 800 to 875. And the projectile speed, so the rate at which you yeet that axe out there, is also going up by a little bit from 550 to 600. So the axe just gonna pack more of a punch, which I think is fair enough. It's kind of the only warrior weapon that's worth using in my opinion. The sword if you want to meme out, but the axe, definitely a very strong weapon. Gonna become even stronger. Gonna have to look out for those spooky warrior mains in the next patch. Finally, we have a nerf to our good old trusty, our good old reliable slug rifle. Now, whilst I am sad to see this happen, I do understand at the same time why it did happen. The slug rifle has been such a reliable, such a consistent, such a great weapon throughout all patches of Realm Royale. I don't think there's ever been a point where I would say the slug rifle is bad. And even after this, I still think the slug rifle is going to be a great weapon, but it won't be like, okay, my enemy had a slug rifle from the chest, I didn't, I lose. It's kind of going to make it a little bit more even if your enemy has a slug rifle and you only have a burst rifle. Honestly, the guy with the slug, at least on PC, will still probably beat the person with the burst rifle, and that just goes to show how strong the slug is. So yeah, damage at every value getting reduced, common all the way through to legendary, and that is the changes for the weapons. Next up, we have abilities. Only one ability actually, and that's the flare, which is the hunter's sort of reveal ability. The fire damage on the flare, for those of you who don't know, you can actually fire the flare into somebody and it deals damage. It used to deal 200, now it's up to 300, and also the amount of time that the enemy is on fire for has increased from 2.01 seconds to 3.01 seconds. So Flare actually going to be a bit more of a damaging ability. It's actually pretty unique about the Flare. It's currently the only support ability that actually deals damage, and now you're going to be able to lean even more into that. The projectile speed, so the rate at which it flies out, is being increased as well from 200 to 300, so a pretty significant increase in which the Flare fires out there. And the radius, so the amount that the Flare can reveal people around you, is also increasing as well. So Flare going to become a pretty good ability in the next patch. In fact, I think Arbalest Hunter with Flare and Blast Arrow is definitely going to be one to look out for. And you bet your biscuits, it's going to be one that we're trying out on day one of the new patch. Finally, we have some nerfs across the board to some runes in the game. The chicken health rune going from 800 to 700, so slightly reducing those crazy tanky chickens. You guys know I love to complain about chicken health. The healing increase rune going from 50% to 25%, same with the reload rune from 50% to 25%, and the weapon damage rune going from 15% to 10%. Now honestly, these are some of the most impactful runes in the game. Strange that they didn't touch the headshot rune. It's still 50%, I think, combined with the, again, with the hunter with the Arbalest and the headhunter talent. That's going to be a pretty spooky one. But reload rune was one of those runes that really, really made a difference with the sniper rifle. It felt like if you got Assassin, you got him as sniper rifle, you got that reload rune, it just made the game so much easier for you. So now Assassin gonna find it a little bit more difficult to get those wins. Reload rune not gonna be such a huge difference in fights like that. And the same with the healing increase rune. That was definitely one that mages enjoyed, standing inside their healing station, spamming away with that bolt staff, never really worrying that they're ever gonna die. Now they actually have to think about, you know, how many shots they fire from the bolt staff, and also the fact that, you know, having legendary healing station with the increased healing rune doesn't mean they're just invulnerable. They actually have to think about what they're doing. So overall, I think the rune changes are good. Maybe the reload rune could have just gone from like 30% or 35%. Cutting it in half was pretty extreme, but at the same time, it was one of the most impactful runes in the game for certain classes. Finally, the last bit of the patch notes, we do have a few bug fixes. They've addressed multiple cases of the game crashing on the Nintendo Switch, so rejoice, my Switch brothers and sisters. I know a lot of you guys come into playing the custom games and you crash out frequently at the start. You crash when you're about to land, you crash when you get invited to a party. You're just crashing a lot on Nintendo Switch, so hopefully gonna be happening a lot less in this next patch. It's taken so long for this to happen, and I feel sad and sorry that it's been so long for you guys suffering away on the Switch. But if you are still one of the 8 people playing Realm Royale on the Nintendo Switch, it will now be more reliable for you. Maybe tell your friends to come on back. We do have the change to the Forge Mushroom in Fungal Jungle. We already know about that one. They fixed an issue where the game could end early if a player were damaged at the edges of the map. I have no idea what that means. Apparently that's the thing. It's been fixed. And finally, they fixed an issue where the Trapper talent would allow the proximity mine to root people twice. Now, if you've been in on our custom games, you've been on the stream, again, links in the description down below. We frequently ban Trapper from our custom games because being able to root people to the ground twice in a row with the proximity trap was very, very powerful. So this is no longer going to be bugged out and just going to perform as normally, still making it a pretty good talent in the next patch. So there you go, guys. That's the full patch notes breakdown for Realm Royale Open Beta 23. Again, I know a lot of you guys are going to be upset about the fact that there's no Battle Pass, but some of the elements that you would expect, the daily rotating star, so there's going to be new stuff on the star every single day for you guys to pick up, and there's also going to be a way to earn free crowns, potentially forever, rather than just for one Battle Pass. But ultimately, you know, only you guys know how you feel, and I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say as well. What do you think about this next patch? Is it everything you were hoping for? Is there anything else that you would wish, you know, we could see? What's the most exciting thing for you guys? Let me know in those comments down below. For me personally, I really want to see how the 2 new abilities play, and I'm interested to see every single limited time game mode. How many exactly are they, and how wacky and weird do they get with the rules? Are we going to see Deathmatch come back? Are we going to see Realm Wars? Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put some links to those videos in the description down below, or up at that little box thing that I can make pop up at the top. But yeah, ultimately, I think it's going to be a good patch. I do. One of the things that we really need in Realm Royale is something between the long patches, you know, where it's like we're waiting 4-5 months until we get another patch. It feels like something that keeps you coming back to the game every day. For me, I've completed solo, duo, squad at Masters. We've finished the Battle Pass. We've got every class character to level 30. I feel like I've done almost everything there is to do in Realm Royale, so to have a reason to come back on a daily basis to get some crowns, to see what's on the store, and also to come back every week for a new exciting game mode, it feels like it really, really is a step in the right direction, and it's going to make Realm Royale better overall. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you go ahead and click that like button. For more content from me, from the realm, anything like that, anything Baggins, make sure you go ahead and click subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.